Yo, Jose, Doc here. I've been hearing that, David Benavidez is looking for a fight, you and your son. But you're not looking at Beterbiev and Bivol. You're looking at other options like Callum Smith and Jesse Hart. Why is that?
Those are the fights that we're looking at because I don't see that Beterbiev wants to fight or Bivol wants to fight David Benavidez.
Yeah, all right, Pops. Yeah, we get it. We know everybody's ducky. Beterbiev and Bivol's ducky you. Cinnamon was ducky you. I mean, well, why do you feel this way?
We can wait, not a problem. But I heard that they're not fighting right now. I think Bivol is trying to put another fight in between.
It's not happening next?
If I tell you I'm good, probably you will say I'm boasting. If I tell you I'm no good, you know one line.
Yo, what's good, Boxing Talk family? It's your boy, Dr. Boxing Talk, back for another YouTube video. Banger, man. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I know what time it is. The doctor's in the house, man. So check this out. As you can see from the intro, there's been some destructive news. When I say destructive, I'm saying that it's a massive interruption to our initial plans of the trilogy between Bivol and Beterbiev being next, right? So this is very disruptive to what we thought was going on, because what we find is going on ain't what we thought was going to be going on, according to Jose Benavidez Sr. He has just told us that he doesn't believe that Bivol versus Beterbiev is actually the next fight. He believes that they will have a fight in the interim at the request of Dmitry Bivol between the trilogy. Now, that's not that big of a problem on the surface, but if you are Jose Benavidez Sr. and his camp, with Dave Benavidez and his son and Jose Benavidez Jr. and the rest of his fighters, that is kind of disconcerting. Not kind of, it is disconcerting and it's disappointing, right? Because while I've been very adamant about telling David Benavidez, hey man, just chill. We already knew that the first fight, if that was close, they'd have a rematch. And if that was close, then we'll subsequently have a trilogy. And that's where we're at with Beterbiev and Bivol to be undisputed at the light heavyweight division, right? And then so they had the first two fights for undisputed, seeing each of them claim undisputed between them. Shout out to them, phenomenal, all-time great fighters, right? And then the third fight will settle the score, whether it's for undisputed or not. Obviously, it's not, because the WBC stripped Dmitry Bivol and elevated David Benavidez as a WBC champion, right, for the 175-pound division, right? Cool. But the thing about that is that I've been saying, hey man, I know we want to see David Benavidez. I know David Benavidez might want that fight, but you got to chill, man. Your current position is just not one where you could demand such a fight right now. At least give them the time to finish the trilogy, since we anticipated that. And then we'll see how they move forward after that. Hopefully that progression in movement forward would go through David Benavidez, and I still maintain that. But Jose Benavidez Sr. is saying that he has reason to believe that they don't want to fight him at all, because they want an interim fight. And if I agree with them, if they have a fight in the interim, but they didn't want to fight David Benavidez, then I think that is signs for duck accusations. Like I said, once again, if you think about it critically, though, maybe Beterbiev has an injury, and maybe that's why Bivol is requesting a fight on the interim. So he didn't really get into it. Obviously, he's not in the camps of neither Dmitry Bivol or Matchroom or Artur Beterbiev in Top Rank. So he doesn't have direct contact. Well, maybe he has direct contact, but he's not in the meetings himself in the physical, when it comes to the direction of their careers as far as Bivol and Beterbiev goes. But you got to understand that I hear news, and I'm not in any of these meetings. I'm not an employee for PBC, Top Rank, Golden Boy, or any of the other huge boxing entities, but I do a lot of research. I read a lot of articles. I watch a lot of interviews. But with that being said, Jose Benavidez, he's actually in these rooms and in these meetings, and he's actually contacting people in regards to fights that are upcoming and maybe further down the line in the future or not happening at all. So he's going to be privy to a lot of stuff before, let's say, I will and others. So it's not unbelievable or unfathomable that he would be able to know what's going on in other camps, even if he can't add further specificity, and he may not know every fine detail. But like I said, this is where I come in, and where I could give my 2 cents, if you will, and give my opinion on what I think is happening from the evidence that I've seen. And we know Beterbiev has taken a lot of times between fights, and this will be a pretty quick turnaround. He just fought in February, and he'll fight again in October. We know he's older. He sometimes has these little nicks and knacks and these little injuries that might take some time to heal. So maybe he sustained the injury that he wants to recover from. I don't think so, because we've seen training videos, but maybe something is going on to where Bivol, instead of just waiting for Beterbiev to be ready, he wants to have a fight in the interim. He didn't get into that, so maybe that is the issue. But if it's not the issue, and Bivol just wants to fight somebody else on his own accord, then I do think that's kind of messed up if I'm David Benavidez. However, that still doesn't mean that he's ducking him. You know, I don't agree with that. I don't think Bivol personally or Beterbiev is ducking David Benavidez. And you know I can understand why he would feel that way, because he feels like Cinnamon has been ducking him the whole time. But I gotta be honest, man, Canelo Alvarez, he was never ordered to fight by the WBC. So I know that it's easier to blame the boxers because you get more clicks, you get more likes, and you get a better conversation when you talk about who's ducking who or who's scared. But the responsibility falls on the administrative bodies that are in charge, and that would be the WBC and President Mauricio Suleiman. You see how fast they stripped Bivol and gave the belt to David Benavidez when he didn't comply with fighting their mandatory that they made in haste, you know, with David Benavidez, right? So they, in theory, they could have did the same to Canelo, but why didn't they do the same to Canelo? Because they know Cinnamon is the face of boxing. And they ain't gonna do that to my boy, you know what I'm saying? Because he deserves the position he's in. But still, if it was ordered that he didn't fight David Benavidez, that he would be forced to be stripped. So you could say he's ducking him, but if you tell the whole story, then it kind of is more evident that, you know, at the end of the day, the administrative bodies permit and prohibit who they want to fight and who they don't want to fight. You know what I'm saying? Like Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao's getting a chance against Mario Barrios because the WBC allowed it to happen. Because if they did not approve of his opponent, then this could not be a championship fight. It just is what it is, man. So we got to look at the big picture, you know? Now, who could David Benavidez fight instead of Dmitry Bivol Beterbiev? I think, like you said, Callum Smith would be cool. I really think anybody would suffice. Hey, Anthony Yard would be cool. You know, even Jesse Hart. You can go to that option. I think these are all decent options to fight while you wait for the closing chapter of the Beterbiev and Bivol trilogy. You know, I think all those will suffice. He doesn't have to fight a big fight. And I think that right there, what I just said, he doesn't have to fight a big fight, kind of let you know why Dmitry Bivol could be looking for a smaller fight in the interim, because he knows he has a big fight coming. So the last thing he wants to do is fight somebody that's dangerous and mess around and get hurt himself. And then now the fight gets postponed even more, the trilogy with Beterbiev. So if you look at it like that, it kind of makes sense. But still, I understand being in the position that David Benavidez is in, and his father, Jose Benavidez Sr., you get frustrated. So that's natural, you know what I'm saying? So if anybody doesn't understand that, I don't understand you. But shout out to Jose Benavidez Sr. He might have put us on game, man. Don't be surprised if Beterbiev and Bivol trilogy does not happen next and there's a fight on the interim. I think it's going to happen next, but we'll see, because sometimes you just never know when it comes to this boxing stuff. Don't forget to smack that like button, but most importantly, remember, with God, we can do anything. Without God, we're nothing. The doctor's out. Appreciate y'all. Peace. From the hood to college, both worlds they had to meet. 6 degrees between us, so cold, we're about to freeze. But we're Florida boys, hot takes, we bring the heat. We're moving the culture, the engineers to the streets.